Hello and welcome to the show. Well, listen, I want to take this time to say thank you for joining the show. We're doing a little something different today, so everybody's in a different location. We aren't in the studio, but that's all right. So, again, thank you for joining this show. This is the year of the power of now. And what I talk about is doing it now because I talk about what happened to me right on January the 1st of this year. And so I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be alive. And I'm grateful to be able to bring the Tammy Show to you. And so this month we are celebrating Fearless Fathers. And what that means is we have some dynamic fathers. Today's guest is Minister C.T. Kirk. So listen, I just want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy because it's coming up next.
The Curry Insurance Agency has served the community for over 30 years with hundreds of trained representatives to assist you in selecting health plans. Curry Insurance Agency is the largest marketing insurance group in the state of South Carolina for Medicare Advantage and represents all major health carriers. Curry's motto is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Call the Curry Agency today at 803-536-0889. The Cecil Williams South Carolina Civil Rights Museum is the Palmetto State's first and only museum. It honors a generation of people, black and white, throughout the state of South Carolina who deserve to be remembered for their unselfish commitments and sacrifices. Enjoy an immersive and entertaining virtual tour. For more information, visit www.cecilwilliams.com.
Welcome back to the show. Well, I told you we have a great show planned for you. Today we're talking with a fearless father. He is the pastor of Sanctuary of Life Outreach Center. He's a native of Rock Hill, South Carolina. He is a middle school social studies teacher. He's also an author of many books and a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Incorporated, Fraternity Incorporated. Pastor CT is married to the lovely Lady Monique Durham Kirk. They have two daughters, Anala and Kendall, and one son, Brendan. So without further ado, folks, I want to introduce you to none other than Minister C.T. Kirk. Come on out, Pastor.
Thank you so much for having me on today.
Yes, sir. Well, listen, it is my pleasure. You are blessing us with being on the show today. And so I appreciate you so much. So, I want to welcome you to the show, of course. And then I just want to ask you just a few questions. And, we're just talking in the living room, as we say. So I want you to kind of tell us a little bit about C.T. Kirk.
All right. I was born and raised in Rock Hill, South Carolina. I entered into the college arena kind of late in life, which is a part of my testimony because I worked the first part of my life in warehousing. Even moved up as supervisor, some driving. And so I didn't find out what I wanted to do until my late 20s. And from that, entered back into education and became a teacher. And it really has revolutionized and changed my life.
Wow. When I read all of this, I'm reading your bio. Then, of course, you've written all of these books, the time. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But I want you, as a father, tell us about your children. You have 3 children, 2 daughters and a son. Tell us a little bit about them.
My daughter, Nayla, she's 21 years old, and she attends upstate, studying to be a nurse, and we're so proud of her. And so she is very much a godly lady, a woman of compassion and heart, just an all-around good daughter to raise. My son, Brendan, he's the middle child. He's 14. He's entering into high school. So we're doing some corrective measures within his personality to get him where he needs to be. He's always been an honor roll kid, always been in the band, loves sports. And then my baby girl, Kendall, is 9 years old, and she's probably the one that acts the most like me. Loves to have a good time. She loves to smile, and something about her melts my heart. I just can't figure out what it is.
And that's that daddy daughter love. I was a daddy's girl, and so that's that special bond. It's that special bond. I tell you. And see, Brendan and his mother, they have that
Yes.
bond as well. And you have a bond with him, but it's different than a mother and son and a daughter and a daddy.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
know that feeling. So, we sent us some pictures. And so I want to pull up those pictures of your family so that everyone can see your family.
Okay.
Yeah, you've got some beautiful, oh my goodness. So tell us who is in the picture.
All
So
right. Sitting beside me to my it's at my left. My left is Anela. Then my wife Monique is in the middle. Then Brendan and Kendall's on the end on the right hand side.
oh my goodness, a beautiful family. You have some other pictures as well that you sent us. I just want to share the pictures. Now, Kendall looks a little younger in this picture.
Yeah, that picture was in 2019. I had just won the Rock Hill Dreamkeeper Award.
Congratulations. And that's Kendall in the middle?
That the little one?
Kendall in the middle,
Yes, ma'am.
Anala next to you,
Yes, ma'am. And then Monique off to the right.
Monique and Brendan. Wow, congratulations, Pastor. And what's the next picture? I know we have another one, a fun picture.
That's the picture of us in Dominican Republic, Punta Cana. We just got back from there last week.
What a vacation. And then we're on the beach. I remember seeing this picture as well, on the beach.
Yeah, we were actually sinking in the sand.
Now, who is that with you? Is that Miss Monique with you?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Wonderful. Well, listen, thank you for sending those wonderful pictures so we get a glimpse at what your family looks like. So I want to, talk to you as we were talking a minute ago, I was saying about all that you've been doing. School teacher, pastor, author. How do you balance that career in helping your community and spending time with your children?
It was taxing at first, and it took me a while to understand the very significance and importance of family first. That when you really commit to family first, everything else kind of falls in line. Mm-hmm. And so at first, I didn't have that balance. I was more community oriented, would run to different programs and different things to try to show support. And then I remember my wife was reading a book that said, "Let your best yes be yes and your best no be no." And I really started to understand that some things just have to function without you. You can't say yes to everything and be at everything. And you can do a fewer programs that are more effective than trying to do a whole lot of things and don't do anything. And so really kind of pulling back from that opened up so much more time to be at home and to groom, and then to also include your family in some things that you're doing, include them. So my son and my daughters, they would be out there picking up trash with me. They would go to certain programs with me so they could understand the other side of what I do as a pastor and a community leader. And so within school, I wrote the majority of my book during my planning sessions at school. I would do a chapter at a time, or I would do a little bit at a time. Mm-hmm. Those moments when that writing passion was really just driving. And so being able to commit to trying to do one book every year or two has been my motivation. It helps me to kind of spread it out over a course of time and get that done.
Right. And, while you were talking about you can't do all the things that, and be everywhere and help everybody. I remember my parents saying you can't be all things to all people all the time.
Right. That's right. Because people don't have a concern about your time, and if you don't take that moment to make your time important, people want to see you at everything and every function, and you have to be able to say, you know what, no, I can't attend that, or I can send somebody else in my place. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I had to learn that later in life.
Wow. And so later in life with having your children, how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself in your children?
Oh, a lot. I see my competitive edge in my son. I see my giving nature in my oldest daughter, and I definitely see my humor in my youngest daughter.
Wow. And so what do you enjoy most about being a father?
Having a legacy, having things that you can pass down to the next generation, whether it be a skill, whether it be mindset, whether it be influence. It makes it a whole lot better when you have someone to invest in, and you know that a part of your living on earth will be your children passing it down to their children and their children. I had uncle said once, we always talk about everlasting life on the other side, but you can have everlasting life in the earth. We're still talking about Dr. Martin Luther King, and he's been dead for over 50 years, because when you do things in the earth, you give people a reason to keep your legacy going. And so a great part of being a father is having that legacy to be able to pass down those stories and hope that it impacts my children even when I'm gone.
That's right. And one of the things I want to go back to you and ask you about your father and the men in your life. What did you learn from them? What were some of the lessons that you learned from them?
My biological father wasn't really in my life, even though, I would see him when I would go to his house. It was more of when I visit. And so me and him really connected when I turned about 35 years old. And we kind of connected. And so we had about 7 to 8 years to really groom and grow as father and son. And so just being able to establish that forgiveness with him, and even to the place of being at his side during his last days on the earth, knowing that you walk in that forgiveness, and it really helped a whole lot. My stepfather was the majority of person that raised me in life. And so some of the things that he taught me was to have a mild-mannered characteristic. He's not the yelling type, not the upset type. Wants to talk things out. And so I think that my temperament is more laid back, where I don't want to argue. Let's get to a discussion. Let's break these things down. I also had a lot of other men that sown skills into my life. And I think that's important about being a man, is that a man is going to be groomed from a lot of different men that he sees. I haven't met one man yet that had everything, the whole total package, everything together. In fact, there's a joke that goes around that says a fourth floor, and this lady had a choice of a man on per floor, and she went all the way to the top floor. And they said, there's no more men up here, because no matter how good a man is, you're not going to be satisfied. So I've never seen the total package in every one man, but seeing different men, I was able to glean some things from each man's life.
That's right. And that's what I was talking about, the things that you glean. What were some of those things? You could just mention two or three of them.
One thing that I gleaned definitely was to always speak and be kind to people, to always be quick to forgive, because some people may just be in a bad headspace that may attack you. And the other thing that I learned was, it's not all about you. You can't take everything personal as a man. There's going to be times your wife's going to be upset. There's going to be times your kid's upset, that it has nothing to do with you. But as the man, your role is facilitating those problems. And then I learned the most important lesson was, you can't fix everything. Some things only God can fix, and you got to know at the end of the day when you've given it your best. Because a lot of times we go into depression, we go into just bad spirits when we try to fix things and they're not being fixed the way we want them to be fixed. And so I had to learn, you can't fix everything. You can't be, like you said, everything to everybody.
That's right. That's right. Well, as we're talking about this, and you're talking about different things that you've gleaned, what do you want your children to glean from you as they are growing up?
I want my kids to see my kind nature, that never meet a stranger, always be kind, always be nice to people, because you don't know who your blessing is going to come through. Regardless of what they may hear in the world. I know racism is big in America and people take stabs at each other. But I believe that if you treat everyone right, even the people that don't like you, you're still showing God's favor within the earth. And so I want my children to understand that, to be kind, to love people, to love your family, get to know your family members, because these are memories that you're going to need to get you through the rest of your life. For those of us that lost parents, you got those memories that keep you smiling. Even though they've been gone for 20 years, you can still bring up the uncle that danced and had a good time. And you just know, you know what? And I want that to be in the memory of my children, that they always remember that I always saw the good time. I kept a smile on my face, that I didn't try to put on a hardcore persona because I was an African-American man, or that I took a licking and kept on ticking, or that I was always a giver. Even no matter what career seems like I choose, it's always giving back to people, whether it's pastoring, whether it's school, whether it's author, you're still giving of yourself to people. And so want them to understand the importance of giving.
That's right. And that's so important, as you were talking about giving. But one of the things that I'm going to go back to what you talked about with your biological father, because I'm an adopted child from birth. So I don't know who my biological father or mother is. But one of the things that you said to me is about forgiveness. I think for fathers and for mothers, sometimes we don't know how to forgive. I had a mother that was very difficult, and people used to say, well, as she got older, how did you go take care of her with all of that was going on? And one of the things that I said is because it's not for me. This is for her to see God in me, but more importantly, for me to forgive, because that's for me.
Mhm.
That's just for me. And so I love the way you express that, about your biological father, and how you were able to forgive and really connect with him in his later years. One of the things that comes to mind when we talk is your children. Talk about the part where what you enjoy doing with them the most. What makes you happy and what makes them happy?
My children picked up on one quality that I didn't even realize I was um, living, and that is, regardless of what we watch on TV or what I hear, I love to research. So it could be, if we're going to see a movie, I'm researching who played the cartoon character, how much money did it make, what went into production. And you can see a lot of times my children in their cell phones during the midst of a movie or something, they're researching that
Mhm.
movie and what's going on in that. And so being able to go and sit down and watch movies with them, and wherever we go to play, I'm a part of that playing aspect. Sometimes I take over the play. And I'll get more crazier than them. And even in the classroom, my kids will tell you, I love to partake in things that kids are doing,
Mhm.
especially my kids, because they need that father side of them. And I think, a part of, not having the father or not having a mother in your past is it makes you want to become a little bit more to your children, so that what you
Right.
didn't get, you can give.
You can
And I
give.
think that's the motivation. If so many people, in my first book, I talk about that a lot, about how you take those negative situations and use it to those positive things. I use Romans 8:28 all my life. All things
Mm.
work together for them that are called according to His
Yes.
purpose and His glory and His love. And I believe that is so important, that my children get to see the side of me that I may not have seen, but I learned how to be a better father because I didn't necessarily have that.
Wow. Hey, man, you're powerful. I'm telling you, I know that they have a good time with you. I can tell just from how you talk. You probably like to laugh a lot.
Yeah, a lot. Yes.
And so do I. So do I. So what activity do you like doing with your children?
My children love going to the movies, going to the park, playing basketball with my son. For some strange reason, he always wants to beat me.
Mhm.
If he can't beat nobody else, he wants to beat me, with that competitive nature out of him. And so just doing things like that, we go to the movies a lot,
Mhm.
because I love movies. They love movies, and just being able to have that time to share, even if when we go on vacation, in the pool or on the beach, we're having some kind of fun together.
Wow. So maybe one of those books will become a movie. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Hey, we're praying.
Who knows? You never know. And so, about your students, talk about being a father figure to your students. Do you think that some of them see you in that light?
Oh yes, I keep in contact with children even after. I'm still talking to my fifth graders that I had, and they'll be seniors next year, about coming to their graduation, through
Mhm.
technology. Um, Once or twice a month, I'll check on my former students, see how they're doing. A lot of them come by and drive and come and see us. But it was very important for me to be that light. So many children don't have father figures or male mentors, and when you hear their stories and you hear what they go through, and I always tell people this: teaching is probably one of the most important jobs in America, even though it's one of the lowest paid jobs. And so
Mhm.
America shows us that we'd rather value entertainment than value education, knowledge, and love. But to give those children that time and to see differently, and I believe also being African American male, I'm reshaping the stereotypes, because there's so few of us in education. And so when I come with that positivity, when I come with that motivation, when I put on costumes, when I'm making those jokes, I'm reshaping the way that African American men have been looked down on for
Mhm.
so long. My son went to middle school with me, and our students saw us hug. They saw us
Mm.
say, "I love you," and even my male students, they'll tell you, "I'll be like, love you, bro." They'll be like, "I love you too, Miss Kirk," because
Aw.
that's what we need as men, to be able to reshape the way that people look at us and the stigma that has been on our life for so many times. And so it blows people's mind when you can see it. And I don't know why it's so shocked that there's positive African American men out there that smile, that laugh, that love what they do. But for them to see that, I know that that's going to go a long way in their future. Say they came up in a household that was racist, but now you got a good black man that reshaped that thinking in your mind, or that kid that didn't have a father, where now you can say you saw what a man like, because I showed you in my classroom how to pull out a chair for a lady, how to open up the door, how to use manners, how not to get aggressive and fight, but learn how to talk. And so being able to be that part in a person's life is very important.
Yeah, I mean, I love what you're saying about, African American men, because that's one of the reasons that, as you know, people are always thinking a certain way. As you said, that stigmatism is there. Either you're in prison, you're on drugs or selling drugs, or you're a pimp. But you know what I'm trying to say.
You're an old school on that one. You might call it something different now.
I don't know what they call it now, but you know what I'm saying. And so to see and be able to talk with you, Pastor C.T. Kirk, is truly is an honor, because we want to make sure here on the Tammy Show that we show those positive images. Last year we talked about the African American male for February, which everybody's talking about Black history, but nobody's talking about Black men, positive Black men. Right. And so my next question comes to you: do you have a lot of mentees?
Oh, yes. I pulled from a lot of different trees. When it came to community service outreach, I was really trained up under Dr. Ron King, Feed the Homeless. And I also was trained up under Dr. Winslow. And Dr. Winslow is a Caucasian male who does a lot of work within the African American community. And they would really just hammer me and tell me what it was going to take to not only just serve in the community, but be able to bring people from the political background to pour in money into what you're trying to do in the African American community. When it came to teaching, I surrounded myself with male teachers that would give me understanding, because being a female teacher and a male teacher, two different things. There's certain things that you can do, you can't do, but getting those understanding. And then definitely in pastoring, I have mentees that pour into my life, because you'll never go through things and know everything. And so just being able, and sometimes the person that's going to impact your life may not be the person that you look up to as a person of finance or influence. It could be somebody that people would say would be lower than you, but have the information that you need in that season and in that time span. Because Jesus didn't come as a king or wealthy, but he had more information and knowledge than a lot of people that were over him, the Pharisees and the Sadducees. So I have a lot of male mentees that really I trust to give me some insight.
Right. And you are a mentor to many. And so, having said that, we're going to come back and I have one more question before we take a break. But we're going to talk about the author. We're going to talk about high thinking elements. We're going to get into it in the next segment. But my last question for this segment is, what do you want your students to learn from you?
I teach in Lancaster, and I know that it was God to orchestrate me to go to Lancaster because I'm from Rock Hill. And the only thing that I really knew about Lancaster was my wife was from Lancaster, and we would go visit her parents. And when I came out of school, I initially wanted to go to Chester because that's where I was doing a lot of substitute teaching, and I saw the need there. I always wanted to be at a needed school. And so my wife was just telling me about Lancaster, try out for Lancaster. And when I got the first job at Lancaster, I kind of fell in love with the community because I seen so many boys that needed a C.T. Kirk in their life. And even though I drive 30 minutes, can go to Fort Mill or Rock Hill to make more money, my heart is for these boys in Lancaster, because when you look on the news, you don't see a lot of things coming out of there that's positive when it comes to our African American boys. And I felt like if I could just be in a school that needed me, that I would be able to turn some things around. And so that's what's my push, to definitely stay in Lancaster and to keep on going with those kids down there.
Well, and having said that, I know they are blessed to have you. Just like I'm blessed, I'm gleaning a lot from you just now, just sitting here talking with you. And that's what it's all about, making sure that we get the word out and that people like you can come and, just be a part of your life, and you be a part of their life. But more importantly, be the example that they can move forward and become what you would envision them to become. Because after all, it's about us making sure that these children that work with us, that we work with, that they become viable citizens in this community. And so, having said that, we're going to come back. And I want you to sit right tight with me, Minister C.T. Kirk, because I know you're going to have some jokes in the next segment. But, but I want you to come back and we're going to talk about your business. We're going to talk about your books and all. But thank you so much for being on the show. Folks, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
The Cecil Williams South Carolina Civil Rights Museum is the Palmetto State's first and only museum. It honors a generation of people, black and white, throughout the state of South Carolina who deserve to be remembered for their unselfish commitments and sacrifices. Enjoy an immersive and entertaining virtual tour. For more information, visit www.cecilwilliams.com. The Curry Insurance Agency has served the community for over 30 years with hundreds of trained representatives to assist you in selecting health plans. Curry Insurance Agency is the largest marketing insurance group in the state of South Carolina for Medicare Advantage and represents all major health carriers. Curry's motto is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Call the Curry Agency today at 803-536-0889.
Welcome back to the show. I tell you what, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show, and we are talking with C.T. Kirk, minister, pastor, author, school teacher, member of a fraternity, father, husband, all of that in one package. And so he's with us. He's back with us. If you're just joining us at C.T. Kirk, listen, Pastor, and do I say pastor, minister, or you just want me to say CT?
Either one you want to call.
Listen, I can do that CT real easy.
That's right.
So it's great to have you on the show. But let's talk about this, because we talked about you being a father, and you're one of these fearless fathers that we wanted to have on the show. And thank you again, Tiana, our assistant producer. Tell us about your business, Higher Thinking Elements.
Higher Thinking Elements is the brand in which I produce my books under, as I try to grow more into another area of motivational speaking and workshop. It encompasses all of that, and the LLC, I know you already know, it protects you against certain liabilities and things like that. And so just really trying to grow the thinking process. And the reason why it's called Higher Thinking is to get people to think beyond their normal way of thinking, to be able to see things out of the box, and really to see how God will use all of our stories, even those bad parts that we don't want anyone to know. Those are the greatest areas to minister through. You can inspire people through your successes, but it's through some of your mistakes that you're really going to touch people's lives and show them God's grace and God's mercy. And a lot of times we overstep or don't look at the value of our stories and those things that we've went through, but those are the things that God will really use to be able to impact the nation.
That's right. And so Higher Thinking Elements. So now motivational speaking, but tell us about the author part as well. Becoming an author, why did you want to write these books?
Well, I was kind of pushed in that area by Dr. Kimberly Johnson, who is a child's author. She writes a lot of children's books, have many titles under her name. And she was saying to me one day, your sermons could become a book. And the first book she kind of pushed out was the Learn to Take Back Your Mind. That's a devotion basically. And I would just pull out sermons, type them up, give you something to think on, give you something to operate from, so that you can get full uses out the book. The second book came about during my master's program. I had written this big project paper, and I was like, you know what, this will make a lot of sense as a book. I already did the research, I already found all this stuff out, and so from that, it just became a passion. It's an opportunity to be able to tell your story in a way that people can connect and people can grow, and people can also see that even though we're saved, even though we're ministers, that we've got journey, we have things that we went through as well to be able to stand and proclaim the goodness of the Lord, and being able to put that down in manuscript so people can see it has been a blessing.
Mm-hmm. And I want you to kind of talk about the stories because let's show the first book, producers, and we want to kind of go over the books that you have, and I want you to kind of give us a synopsis
Okay,
of
from
each book.
for the first thing, a book cover is always important to me because it tells a story within a story. And as you see this man sitting on steps, he's sitting at the middle of the steps, which means he don't know whether to go up or to go down.
Mm-hmm.
And many people are stuck in a position in their life. They're stuck in their career. They're stuck in their marriage. They're stuck with their children. They don't know if I'm going up or if I'm going down. And so I really wanted to capture this man sitting there thinking about his decision and his choices. And a lot of things that we find is successful comes through money and fame. Am I going to be famous for, or am I going to get money for it? And we see some of the most depressed people in the world, or some of the richest, famous people that we were like, really, dog? You had all this money, you had all these cars, you had all this, and you going through this, you getting locked up there. And it's because they didn't deal with their minds. They didn't deal with their thoughts. A lot of people have emotional baggage that they never let go of, and they just put fame on top of it, fortune on top of it, a family on top of it, and a job on top of it, but they really haven't dealt with themselves.
That's right.
So this book is to motivate you in a way that you can see yourself. You can look in the mirror and say, okay, have I made peace with my past so I can move forward? There's no sense of me thinking I'm going to move forward if I haven't made peace with my past. Mm-hmm. And I thought, and you know, at 33 years old, I thought I had made peace with my father until I would see my half sister come around and brag about all the stuff he got her for Christmas. You know, I am a grown man. I don't want your toys. I don't want this. But in my head, I'm thinking, well, you didn't do that for me. You did that for me. And here she is almost throwing it in my face. And so it created resentment. And it was only until I was able to deal with those things in my mind was I really able to move forward in my journey.
Wow. You said a mouthful because, you know, first of all, I love the graphic. I love the picture. It speaks volumes because I looked at it when you said whether he's going down or going up. I'm looking at it like, what are the steps that you're taking to get to where you want to go? Mm-hmm. And so that was my interpretation as well. But, you know, it's important for us as a people to understand that we do have a lot of baggage, and it comes from years ago. I mean, and I talk about this because I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. I talk about this and I say, you know what? I said, when we think about oppressed people, we have been oppressed for many, many years. And it's like, wow, now I know why this one acts like that, or their parents act, or their grandparents, or their great grandparents did this. Because as you said, they never dealt with their mind and learning how to figure out what's the next steps. How am I going to get there? And also, what do I deal with for my past? You know, we always hear people say, and CT, you can help me with this. People always tell you, say, well, don't look back. But then in order for you to get forward, you've got to at least deal with the back part. Mm-hmm. Am I correct in saying that?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You have to look back because a lot of, as you said, the oppression may not even been you've been oppressed. It could be your mother was oppressed, your grandfather under oppressed. And what do oppressed people do? They oppress other people. If your grandma, and this was one thing that we found in our family, if your grandmother had a hard time with her husband, she's not able to teach the daughter the respect or the love that you can have for your husband. She's going to teach her the impression or the oppression of what she went through. And so just being able to see that and go with that is very important.
That's right. That's right.
To know how to connect those dots.
That's right. I'm here with you. I know you thought I thought I disappeared. Right. I was just giving you the stage. That's all.
Oh, okay. Okay. Now I know when you put it back up there.
I was giving you the stage because that was important. I wanted people to make sure that they heard what you said. So let's talk about the next book. The next book is How the West Was Whitewashed.
Wow. This is my controversial book, but this book deals with how it deals with different parts. It introduces you to stories of African Americans that were left out of the West on purpose. And it also shows Hollywood's cover up of true stories and how some of these stories were given to white actors such as John Wayne and Clint Eastwood, even though Hollywood knew that these stories were based around African American people.
Exactly.
And I use that to show forth because when I was little, when you played cowboys and Indians, everybody wanted to be the cowboy without realizing the name cowboy is almost like saying the N word. A cowboy was what they called black ranchers. They were calling them boy, first of all. And so it wasn't this glamorous, you're a cowboy, bang, bang, bang. It was, no, you are under, you are African American working on somebody else's ranch. And so everybody wanted to be the cowboy because we thought the cowboy was the good guy. And the Indians were the bad guys because we didn't understand that the cowboys were trying to take the Indians' land and what they were doing, and it was trying to colonize them. We didn't understand these facts, and so we went with this. And so it is a way for people to really look at the West through other eyes and say, okay, these people that you don't know, who never come up in African American history, who never are talked about, are these people that helped shape the West and the reason that we are where we are today. And then I shock everybody at the end when I say, when you break down a hymn song and you break down a country song, it's the same thing. The only thing about country song is it was a way for white men to be able to sing in a key that was comfortable for them. But all of these songs started around campfires.
That's right.
With people that slavery that went around campfires singing to their white counterparts, and it became country music. One of the most famous country singers that never got the publicity he needed, he's dead and gone, as Charlie Pride. Charlie Pride was only second to Elvis Presley in the most number one sold, but he never got any kind of credentials because it seemed like he was a black man singing white music, singing about shooting, hunting, killing, none of that kind of stuff. But he was singing in country ways, and he never got his just reward. But you have somebody like Lil Nas X that sings Old Town Road. And, oh my God, Charlie Pride was doing that. Wait, look back and research.
And that's so true. And on your cover, who is that on your cover?
Now, if you notice on the cover, it's Bass Reeves, but he's being whitened out. Bass Reeves, one of the most feared lawmen in the world. That's right. Is being erased because so many of his stories were taken and given to white actors.
That's right. You know, I ride horses, and so people don't realize that there are more African Americans that have horses that ride, and not so much a cowboy. We, just out here riding, having a good time.
New Jersey, Texas, all over.
All over. We had a young guy, CT, on this show who has won the rodeo. He's the first African American to win the bull rodeo championship. He's up in the Maryland area. And so, Bill Cody, all those people that you don't hear of, that people don't know. And so listen, I got to get that book. So how do we get the book? That's what I want.
It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes and Nobles. It's Burning Great Waves on it. Again, because I knew when I was going through titles that it was going to be controversial, and I had a lot of slack. I had somebody write a negative review on Barnes & Noble that never read the book, but I think it was somebody that knew me personally, but had a problem because they said that it looked racist because of the cover. But what I was saying with whitewashing was basically when you are trying to change the scenario or the narrative. And it's even happened amongst us as African Americans. And I tell my students in the classroom, when I always challenge them, Rosa Parks was not the first African American woman to sit down the bus. Claudette Coven did it, but she was too young. She was pregnant. And the NAACP felt like she would be a bad narrative to put out there in the forefront. Whereas you had Rosa Parks that was married, that was the secretary of the NAACP, and so put her out there. So a lot of history has been whitewashed, and a lot of people are scared for the truth to be revealed.
Yeah, and it's time now for us to tell the truth. And I think these young people that are this generation now that's coming up, they're ready to tell what's happening. They're ready.
Definitely going to challenge us.
They're going to that's right. They're going to challenge you. And so the third book is about why me. Let's see that cover.
And this book should be released around August.
Wow, that's coming out. Just can you give us a snippet of what's to come?
But this book took a long time for me to write because the past kept coming up in a hurtful manner. But it is me telling my experience with being molested and how I had to deal with it through the course of my life. And it was really motivated by, I don't know if you remember when John Kavanaugh was running for Supreme Court judge.
Yes.
And people were like, well, these women bringing up these old stuff against him, they should have been healed. And when I was thinking about that, I was thinking about people cannot really tell you a time frame on healing, especially when you went through rape, sexual assault, or molestation. Those things play with your mind so many times. And being able to talk to other men, I didn't realize how many men have a story of molestation. Mm-hmm. Some of them that had fears that they were going to go down the wrong road. Some of them been able to explain, that's why I was a womanizer, because I was trying to prove to myself I was a man, and so these stories haunt me, and there's no men that are telling these stories. And I remember when Terry Crews came out about how he was at a party and the Hollywood exec grabbed his butt and everybody was saying, oh, this big joker should have knocked him out, blah, 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 knocked him out. You up there crying like a woman crying? No, if that was a woman, we would sympathize with her. Mm-hmm. But as a man, we're supposed to handle the same situations in a different way. And so that's what I was like, somebody need to tell the story for real of the baggage that comes with molestation.
That's right. That's right. So I can't wait to read that book. And you said that comes out in August.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
That one big.
So I'm gonna have you back on so we can talk with you about the book signing that you're going to do. Maybe you'll come to Orangeburg and do a book
my cousin is in Orangeburg. There's a doctor in Orangeburg.
Who is that?
Dr. Samuel Hinton.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, listen, maybe we're going to get you here to talk about and bring your books with you and have a book signing. That's awesome. That's something we're going to do. So Tiana, make sure I have all of your information. And so I want to talk with you about the hardest parts in your life. You talked about your father, your biological father, but what was one of the hardest moments you had being a father with now? In this now, and why was it hard?
I think the hardest part of being a father is some of the things that you didn't learn. You have to find out on your own, and a lot of times you'll be criticized by what you didn't have and what you didn't know. And so I think it's a lot of pressure on a father knowing everything that he didn't know. And so that was one of the things when it came down to discipline, when it came down to dentist appointments or things like that. Those are things that I didn't naturally see. Mm-hmm. And so it was a hard place to just go with the flow, and not where it looked like, oh my gosh, your parents were terrible parents, but everybody's raised differently. And what may be of value to some families are not valuable to other families. And so I think that social media really brought a lot of comparison, a lot of just ill feelings, because you see this on social media and you think that's the way everybody's life is going to be ran, without realizing some people are only going to put high moments on social media. That's and right. You'll never know,
the tough part,
there's things that's going on really behind the scenes, because that person's not going to show that. And so I think the social media age really made being a father a little bit more difficult. Because if you remember in the 60s and the 50s, all a man had to do was work, pay bills, sit on the couch, eat, and go to bed, and you were a good father. Or, you could, be a little hard on your son, show him how to be a man, get him out there working in the fields, and you were a good father. Well, now a father must be balanced in a lot of different ways, even from things that he may have not gotten within his own life.
Wow.
You got to be firm, but you got to be sensitive.
Exactly.
You spank, but you got to talk. You got to be attentive, but you got to allow space for them. You got to do privacy, but you got to open doors. Mm-hmm. It's all of these things now because of this whole new social media shaping of fathers.
That's right. And, talking about that, and I'm going to ask you the question because of your students that you deal with every day. Entertainment. And you just said something earlier on the last segment about entertainment. Kids see this. And I talk about now people doing baby showers. And I was like, when I had a baby shower, I had 10 people, maybe 15.
It wasn't a grand affair then.
Yeah.
It was I need Pampers and I need
Hello. And the one thing about it is young people now, they think that they are supposed to be here when actually you're where you need to be. But because they see the entertainers and how they live, and what they don't understand is these are sponsors. These are sponsored events. They don't have to pay for anything.
Exactly.
If Beyonce has something, Crown Royal gonna do it, or this one's gonna do it, or that one's gonna do it. And so, as far as your students that you teach, what emphasis do they place on entertainment that you've noticed?
They put a lot of and the thing about it is I think a lot of kids are drawn now to probably some of the negative celebrities out there today more so than when I was little. You know, we would, you know, Bill Cosby was everybody's father. You know, we didn't know about all this other stuff behind the scenes,
Right.
but you know that was somebody that you were drawn to because that was the day before gangster rap was out, when music was still what they would probably call now I don't know, pop or whatever.
Yeah.
The music was more positive, and so you had positive influences to look at more so than anything. You know, LeVar Burton. You know, he was great. He was a great success story because he had went from playing Kuna, who couldn't read, to being on Reading Rainbow, and we were shocked. Hey, you reading? you doing all of this, and so I'm just getting children, and that's one of the things that we do in my classroom that I think is so helpful. That yes, I want you to know your social studies. Yes, I want you to know your history, but I also want you to know that right now you're becoming history for the next generation. So let's look at some of these lyrics that you're listening to. What are these lyrics saying? Let's talk about these celebrities that you're exalting. What's going on behind their personal life? Because if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Exactly.
And I let these children know, hey, this rapper can put tattoos all on his face, but the job you can't walk in there with that. You know, and so getting them to understand that there is a fine line between entertainment and where you may go. And I say, you know, you being a football player may be your plan A, but you need a strong plan B because the league is not big enough to hold everybody that has a talent for football.
That's right. That's right. I mean, that's for females as well, you know.
And it kind of helped my kids when they see some of the videos that I were in, rap videos and stuff like that. I can pull up on YouTube and say, look, and they're like, you're famous, you know.
So you do rap too?
No, I just been in a couple of videos of Christian rap artists.
Really?
Different people, yes.
Well, what artists have you been with?
Mr. Dark you know, Money Train.
Yeah.
I was in his first video playing a feature, so yeah.
Wow, you are famous. Listen, you I can see them saying that. Boy, look at you. You're famous. So this question I want to ask, and I'm gonna veer off, and this is about fathers again. What makes a good father?
I think what makes a good father is always trying to do the best you can, never giving up. To me, being a good father is I want my children to know me, to never have to experience life without me, giving them that time, that attentiveness, listening to them, even if my daughter makes a joke that's not funny, but giving her the time and attentiveness is very important because I want to be that memory in her life. And I think that to be a good father, you've got to really just be there, be attentive, and be on the scene, be the listener, be the shoulder for your children to rest on, because it's always going to start with you being there.
That's
right. I never wanted my children to wake up and wonder who their father was or when I was going to come to see them or empty promise of a Christmas. Those are things that I remember. And I remember growing up with that hurt. And I was like, you know what? I never put that on my own kid for them to ever see that side, you know, of life. And I think as a father, you want your children to have a different outlook and a different journey than you may have had, but also being able to teach them the importance of your journey as well.
Yeah, I love that, because one of the things I was just talking to another parent, I said, you know, when your child tells you that they make X amount of money and that's more than what you make, you've done something. You've taught them something. And it's not so much about the money, but it's about the principle of them moving forward in their lives and being able to achieve more than you achieve. And so I said, wow, that's something there.
My son did everything I wanted to do in my middle school. He was in the band, academic challenge team. And when he looked out, he saw his father.
Wow. Isn't that something? So I got a question for you. Another one. Takeaways as we are wrapping up the interview. what are some of the takeaways that you want the viewers to know as far and it's about fathers, but it's also about people and the community, everything that you've been talking about?
I think some of the biggest takeaways that I find in life is that we've really got to get back to being kind and being loving people. The African American race was never a race of individualism. That came
Mm-hmm.
about after slavery and farther along in life when the communities began to be reassigned and gentrification happened, that we really started trying to isolate ourselves from one another. We were more communal people.
Mm-hmm.
And a part of being community is taking care of each other and loving each other. I remember if you didn't have a father on the block, all of us shared that man in that community. You know, he was
Right.
he was my friend's dad, but he was all of our dad, and he didn't mind throwing the football with you, playing basketball with you, giving you some motivation, some tips, and some things to help you out. But now we see problems and we don't go after the problems. We just talk about them. We see boys
Mm-hmm.
with their pants down, but we don't say, "Hey, brother, you know, let me show you how to be a man. Let me show you how. Let me spend some time with you." We're not relational people anymore,
Mm-hmm.
as much as we are each other's critics. We
That's
want to
right.
criticize people, but we don't have a relationship to build upon. And everybody wants to tell you what you can't do. And you'll find that out a lot when it comes to being father. People are quick to tell you what you're not doing right. But rarely do you find people say, "Man, you a good man." You know, and I think that goes a long way from getting boys not wanting to go to gangs, not wanting to kill each other. If you can just have somebody say, "I'm proud of you." You know, you
Mm-hmm.
can't wait till a boy gets all A honor roll to put his port card on Facebook. If your son done went from all D's, now he making B's and C's, tell him he's a good man. Tell him he's a good boy and show him that you can appreciate that progress. What I see so much that destroys African American men is you're rarely told, "Good job," unless you're playing football, unless you're
Mm-hmm.
playing basketball, unless you can give large sums of money to a college. You're not told, "Hey, you're a good man." And every other race, every other gender has that. Whereas somebody's going to tell you, you can find 5 women in your life that'll tell you, "Tammy, I'm proud of you.
Mm.
You're a showgirl. I'm gonna listen to your show." But
Mm.
if a man that does not have any stature tries to do that same thing, it's hard to rally up brothers and say, "You know what? I got your back, bro." You know, and I think that that's what we need to do as a community and as a people. We've got to be able to get back to telling the African American brother, "You're a good man.
You're a good man.
I love you." I told our church one time when people talk about this feministic movement, the African American man didn't hold you back, sister. He didn't have anything to hold you back with. He
That's
didn't own
right.
the jobs. He didn't own the schools. So really, you're launching out an attack against him that he had nothing to
Had
control.
nothing to do with.
You
That's
know,
right.
that man was scraping up, trying to take care of family best
Family.
way he can. And then what happened? Child support booted him out. Section A booted him out. Why? Because if you get rid of the man out of the household, then
Come
you're
on.
going to destroy every generation after him. You
Jim
know,
Crow.
Jim
Jim
Crow, yeah,
Crow.
Jim Crow. You. It looks good that you getting an apartment, but look, you can't bring your kid's father in to that
That's
apartment
right.
so he can show your kid. Now your kid's being raised by the streets, and this
Mm-hmm.
generation is dying. But when we can really get back to telling these men, "Hey, man, you're a good man. I love you. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
did good. Make Father's Day just as exciting as Mother's Day, and say, hey, you're a good brother." And I think that goes a long way of breaking some of the stereotype and the stigma that we have with men.
That's right. And, as we're talking, I've been talking about this, as I said, I'm from Charleston. So, I've always said that South Carolina, and you're from Rock Hill. South
Mhm.
Carolina is Charleston is the state. South Carolina is a city.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
but thinking about that, we don't, as you said, we don't pat men on the back. And so it's always been important for me when I meet young men, just like I met Willie. And and I met him. I mean, he came in the convention center just looking around. And I just happened to say, "Hey, how you doing?" And we just started talking. He was with his friend as well. And I said, "Well, wait a minute, where you going? What do you do? What do you want to do?" And look where he is now,
Yeah.
working with me on the show. And so same thing with Felicia and Tiana. It's about us lifting up our children, period. But more importantly, the African American man, getting back to African values. Because back in the village, what did they do? The man took the children, the man child, and they spent precious time, in getting them to understand you're going into manhood. And what did they do? They had the rites of passage. We don't even have that.
Even biblically, when we look at it, when Jesus had his meeting with the men, he put the resources in the man's hands to be able to just burst out. But also, you never read where anybody left Jesus' meet and they were shouting, speaking in tongues and running around church. But you see where they left with information. And when we look at other religions, whether it be the Nation of Islam or whether it be some of these other religions, it's a big focal point on discipline and structure, more so than what we in the Christian church like to see as a good time with men shouting, men running. But we really got to get back to the information and the instructions of how to have this belief system and make it work in the earth at the same time.
That's right. Wow. Powerful. And so what's next for you? What's next?
Well, our church is more centered around really outreach that does empowerment. And so I work with the solicitor to bring a workshop to our church that's going to show men and women that have records, how to get them expunged, how to get them pardoned. Because even though your application may say they're not looking at your background, a lot of times they look at your background, and that's the reason why they could throw your background, throw your application in the trash can. But really to get people people that need a second chance, give them the resources that they can get those second chances. I've been helping some people, even in my private time, get their pardons and get them situated with that. Also pushing this next book when it comes out to really do well. I think this is going to be the one that's really going to be the one that sets the other books up for success.
Wow. And what can we do? And I say as we, meaning the Tammy Show, meaning the community, what can we do to help you?
Oh, you're already doing it. You provide a platform where we can be real, and being real on a platform is so needed because so much of the narrative has been changed by the media that has fueled our minds. But being able to have shows that you can come and really just be open and honest is really helpful.
Wow. Well, listen, CT, my brother, I can't wait to meet you in person. I can't wait for you to come down and share some of your knowledge and all that you're doing with the folks in this community. Because Orangeburg, is a small community out there where Willie lives. Cope, that's a small community. And so we need teachers. We need motivational speakers like you. And so I hope that we can get you to come down here as well as another appearance on the Tammy Show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And so I got one last thing. And you didn't know anything about this. What are 3 words to describe CT?
Funny, caring, and probably ADHD. They wonder how I got so much energy, and I sum it all up to ADHD.
Hey, listen, and you sat still the whole time for this. So if you have ADHD, you wouldn't have been able to sit here that long.
You can't see what my hands doing and all you see is pop up. So
I saw the eyes moving every now and then, but I can't. Listen, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show. Please tell First Lady Monique that we did say hello here on the Tammy Show. And of course, Anala, Kendall, and Brendan. And the best to you. I mean, may God continue to bless you, CT. I thank you so much for being on the show. It has been an honor for me to have you on the show, and much success to you, man. Much success as you move forward. I'm telling you, got to come down here and do that book signing.
Awesome. Will do.
Okay. Take care of yourself.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow, you heard it right here. That was Pastor C.T. Kirk out of Rock Hill, South Carolina. Okay, all you Kappa brothers out there, this is a Kappa brother. I mean, he's doing it, and y'all know him. And so anyway, we want to thank him. Go out and get his books, and also his he's at Higher Elements LLC. Check it out, because this is a bad, as we say in the old days, this is a bad brother. Okay, he's a fearless father, and he's a God-fearing man. And so I want us to be able to support him in all that he does. He's funny, caring, and what do you say? ADHD. All right. So listen, I just want to thank you again, CT. I know you're still on. Thank you so much for joining the show, CT Kirk, and for your family being able to share you during this time. Folks, of course, I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to thank you for viewing the show as you always do. And as I told you, we're virtual. So if I look a little funny, I might do not in the studio today, but that's all right too. We just keep it moving. And next week, we're going to hear from Alvin King. Now, you talk about another fearless father, bad brother. He's an artist too, C.T. Kirk. So I don't know if you've heard of him, but Alvin King's going to be on. Again, I want to thank my producers, Alicia, assistant producers Tiana, Willie, and Felicia. Thank you. I love you all. Please subscribe to the Tammy TV show. That's on YouTube. Remember, hit that subscribe button. Let's be a blessing to someone today and every day. And I want you all to have a safe and enjoyable week. Until the next time, take care of yourself. Bye-bye.